Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning get together live here on Facebook. All my fingers are crossed because this morning my phone line was down. My phone line is down. We have no phone line, which means we have no internet, which means that we are coming to you thanks to my phone and Telcel, which means that everything could be just fine or it could be chaotic and you could have problems with the signal. And I'm going to be a wreck through this morning, but I'm going to do my best to give you the quality experience that you like. Although I'm constantly looking to the side to make sure that the healthiness of the signal is good. And I don't mean to get geeky with you. So if we melt and break down through the broadcast, I apologize in advance. I hope that's not the case, and I hope I'm just being totally anxious as I usually get. That said, good morning, happy Monday. It's great to see you. My name is Paco, in case you're new to this broadcast, and if you're new to the broadcast, you can let us know by writing the word new in your comment, and we'll be so very happy to give you a proper welcome. And if you have something truly important that you want to share during the broadcast, it helps a great deal if you add the letter Q at the beginning. As always, we're going to go through our news, and I have a few things to put aside for you. And then we're going to have our regular chit-chat on the second half of the broadcast. And something that I was preparing, and I want to go ahead with it if the signal and the internet gods help us, is at the end of our last broadcast on Saturday, you started making interesting questions about who we are. Are we watching from here? Are we watching from elsewhere? Etc., etc. So I want this week to be a big survey says week in which we get the opportunity to learn more about who you are, who we are, what we want, what we need to get out of this broadcast. So if all goes well, we will have a series of questions to look at in the second half. I also want to tell you about an unfortunate situation that happened to me at a restaurant or outside of a restaurant, because I got there and it was closed when it was supposed to be open. And I've learned to be very, very careful. And every time I bring up a restaurant that failed to deliver, because you guys get feisty about your restaurants, and I don't blame you. So we're going to talk about this situation as well. And we'll take it from there. So we might as well get started. Today I'm switching directly from the computer, not from my iPad, because I can only have so many devices connected to the internet. So here we go. Okay, this is very important, and we start with this because it is very important. Given the surplus vaccines that remained after the vaccination campaign for folks in their 40s ended, A couple days ago, this past Saturday, we announced the possibility of an early beginning of vaccination for folks in their 30s. This morning, we learned, however, that the vaccination campaign for folks in their 40s has been extended and will continue today and through Wednesday of this week. Vaccination is also open for folks in their 50s or their 60s that wish to receive their first shot. However, let me stress the information provided did not specify that we could go back and receive our second shot. Because, I mean, if you are like me, you're probably thinking, well, they have extra vaccines. I've already had my first vaccine. I'm in my 50s. Why couldn't I just go and get my second vaccine and just get it done? That has not been advertised. Now, we know that there's been exceptions. Maybe if you get there and you say to them, well, I might as well get my second vaccine right away. You may get it, you may not, but you did not hear it here. Please keep that in mind. So the bottom line, if you are in your 40s and for whatever reason you missed vaccination last week, you can go and get vaccinated this week at the same places at La Lija in the Naval Hospital. So there you have it. Next, we have what about the rain? How about the rain, actually? It was not the rain, but rather some unexpected gusts of wind that did most of the damage in town this past Saturday, as dozens of fallen trees were reported throughout the city, some landing over vehicles that ended up being crushed under the weight of the trees. Let me show you some show and tell, because there are quite a bit of images here provided by Noticias PB. Older trees that just decided I've had enough and bent over. The gusts were really, really strong. Look at this poor vehicle is not going to work any longer. And this is actually at La Lija, which is one of the vaccination sites. The big tent that was located outside collapsed. It just went flying on its own. So this is very unfortunate, but this is what happens. This is what happens in Puerto Vallarta when we get a lot of rain, and hopefully if you had any damage, hopefully it was not substantial. But again, we keep mentioning this business of if you're not familiar with tropical weather, it's going to get rainy, it's going to get gusty. We're going to get these kinds of situations going on. And, heaven forbid we should have a hurricane. But if we have a hurricane, then it gets a lot windier. David Schwartz says guacamole. I don't know why, but that's okay. It's a perfect segue for my next bit of news. Where is my button? Here we go. Father's Day in Mexico is coming up on Sunday, and local restaurants keep hoping that their occupancy. I'm gonna go to my grave not telling the difference between occupation and occupancy. Anyhow, restaurants are hoping to be able to welcome more guests for this important celebration, considered one of the top 5 of the year, given its revenue potential. Of course, we know better than to sit at a restaurant when it's totally packed. So personally, we wait and see. Presently, restaurants are able to operate at 66% capacity and are hoping for 70%. That said, more than once have I walked past a restaurant that seemed full to capacity and thought to myself, no. I would not want to be dining in there right now. And that is our important headlines. Let me switch over to the weather, and then we continue with more news. I know, Chris. I know it's occupancy. But I'm still going to go to my grave not knowing the difference between one or the other. I'm going to go to my grave not remembering my mother's birthday. And that's just the way it's going to be, I suppose. Let's switch over to the weather. Don't worry, I promise to make the weather great again, says our snarky weather. Look at that. It's raining on the weather. It's 26 degrees. Feels like 30. Humidity, oh my God, 93% humidity. And how can we not expect that to be the case with all this rain? In Fahrenheit, we are at 79 degrees. We have a 28% chance of rain this very moment. And our forecast for today is rain and humid. We're going to have a rainy and humid day through the day, high temperature of 30, low temperature of 25. Tuesday, tomorrow, we're going to get rain in the morning, high temperature of 31, low temperature of 25. And Wednesday, humid and mostly cloudy through the day, a high of 32 and a low of 26. Not bad. I hope that you had a good, refreshing rain this past weekend. I had an interesting incident through the rain that I'm going to tell you about right after I tell you about the sinkhole. Remember the sinkhole in Puebla? Well, it keeps growing, and it finally engulfed and swallowed the home that was dangerously hanging on its edge. Puebla Governor Miguel Barbosa Huerta announced after visiting the site that his administration would be solidary with the owners and will help out in whatever way possible. The owners having, of course, lost most of the farming land that they owned, and needless to say, their home and belongings. So we can only hope that they will be supported by the government. So before we get into our chit-chatty session, and we seem to be doing fine. You're still here, and we have a bunch of you. How many of you are here? 122. Excellent, because we want your participation in the surveys that are coming up in a second. But first, this happened to me on Saturday. I had scheduled myself a visit to Pizzeria Fiamma, which somebody was kind enough to recommend to me here in Colonia Versalles. I read about it. It seemed really exciting. The owners from San Miguel de Allende having just moved here, and great reports, this, that, and the other. And I figured, yes, I could use some pizza. So what do? The first thing that I do, of course, is I go to their Facebook website to find out what their hours are. And I see that on Saturday, they open at 3, which is darling. I make plans with my good friend to show up at 3:30, and because I figured, that'll give him half an hour to get the ball rolling, so forth and so on. So my friend and I arrive at 3:30, and we run into this, a door that is closed, and everything seemed to be set up, but everything was closed. We figured, what do we do? And we saw that they had their hours listed outside of the business, and their hours say that they open at 3. We were there at 3:30. So I thought to myself, what do we do? So we left. We ended up going somewhere else. So I hope everything's okay with the owners of this restaurant. Something really horrible must have happened for them to actually not even take the time or the courtesy to put on their sign, we're running a little bit late, maybe like a half an hour late. So I hope everything's okay with them. But if you ask me, and maybe I'm an asshole about this, and you tell me how you feel, if you post your hours on Facebook, and you say that you're going to open a certain time, and you post your hours right on the door of your restaurant, and half an hour later you're still not open and there's no sign of life, how is one to feel about that? Would I like to go back? Yes, I would love to try their pizza, but am I going to be like itching to go back after this situation? Personally, no. How do you feel about that? Let me know in your comments, and we'll get to them in a second. And speaking of comments, that is pretty much what we had for news. So now we're going to play a little game. Dave Schwartz says, Fiamma is around the block from Cayo Blanco. A good choice. Well, that's what I thought. And as a matter of fact, since we couldn't eat there, we ended up at Cayo Blanco, and I'm very happy that we did, because Cayo Blanco, number 1, was air conditioned, and number 2, my friend Sandy and I were sitting at Cayo Blanco halfway through the storm. It's like we're sitting there, we're enjoying our wonderful late lunch, and all of a sudden, whoosh, everything started flowing, and it was just crazy. But it was wonderful to watch it. To watch it from the restaurant, and of course, it was nice to see that the paving of oh, somebody just pissed me off. I'll get to the comments in a second. We were so happy to see that the pavement along Calle Francia is improving. So there you have it. Oh my God, you guys are putting out some really interesting comments. Can't wait to get to that. Okay, first we're going to play Survey Says. I have put together 4 questions, the first 4 questions that we're going to tackle today. And we're going to play a little game because you're running on a little bit of a delay. I think you're running like some 10, 15 seconds behind me because that's the nature of the internet. We're going to put up questions on the screen, and you will have a minute and a half to answer. And during that minute and a half, we will talk about the question. And instead of explaining, I might as well show you what we're going to do. So here we go. I'm putting the first question on the screen because this was the big question at the end of the week. And I hope that the question is on the screen. Come on, are you there? There you go. So there's a question on the screen, and I decided to turn a little timer so that we could take a look at this. And the first question, of course, is, are you watching from Puerto Vallarta or elsewhere? Why do we ask the question? Well, first of all, because we are a show, or we think we are, or we intend to be a show that is by locals for locals. I also understand that there are some of you that feel that you are locals in your heart, and that's okay. That's okay. It's not my place to tell how local you have to be to enjoy Coffee and Headlines. For all I know, the only reason why you're watching is because you're here to look at Luna, who has been absent for a few days. If you don't see the poll on the screen, I don't know what I can say to you. I see that a lot of people are voting. I know that some people may not be able to vote because they're watching on a certain device. And I also know that some of you will not be able to participate on the poll if you're watching this broadcast later on today. So you're welcome to leave your comments. But again, I'm curious as to where you are right now. And again, there is no, oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, now we'll get to the comments. We'll keep this nice and civilized. We'll get to the comments. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of our minute and a half, and the survey says that according to what I'm looking at, right now it's about half and half. 48% of you are in town, 52% of you are elsewhere. And that's neither good nor bad. I think that as long as you are getting something important out of Coffee and Headlines, then it is a good thing. Now, the next question that I want to ask you has to do with something else. And all 4 questions today have to do with core values about Coffee and Headlines. And we'll get to this. We'll get to other questions during the week. And of course, before I forget, if there are certain things that you are curious about that you would like us to make a survey for or make a poll about, please let us know in your comments, and we'll add your questions if they're pertinent to the broadcast, of course, to the next time we do surveys, which I want to do surveys all this week. I think surveys are fun. The next question is this. From the get-go, it's been really important to us to have an advertiser-free environment. Why? Because it helps us remain credible, and it helps us remain credible. I mean, that's really the only reason why we want to do this. So the next question I've put up on the screen is, how important is an advertiser-free environment to you? Now, we do mention and recommend certain businesses here, and some of them we recommend repeatedly, and that's just the nature of the beast. But we do not recommend things that we have not experienced ourselves, number one. Number two, we also do not want you to go onto the website where the show notes are published and be bombarded by advertisements there. That has been a very clear philosophy from the very beginning. And I want to know exactly how you feel about this. And I see that some of you are commenting your answers. Maybe it is because you are not being able to watch the survey on the screen. If that is the case, um, I can totally understand that. And again, I'm sorry, we don't control how Facebook shows their surveys or polls on different devices. And we're getting to the end of our minute and a half. And what we're going to do now is look at the results for this question. How important is an advertiser free environment? Well, we are going to now show the results online. And I see that it is very important to 71% of you that we are advertiser free. 28% of you say, 29% of you say, I'm not very, I don't mind the ads. And 1% of you say, show me the ads. Fair enough. That's good to know, important information. And now I am going to move on to the third of 4 questions, and then we'll get to your comments and we'll do our usual chit chat. For better or worse, there is writers and there is people who type. There are photographers and there are people who pull out their phones. My question is, how important is unbiased quality reporting to you? And what I mean by that is, no, I don't brag of being the most competent writer, and I don't brag of being the most competent photographer out there, but I do brag about trying to do the best possible job. Why am I asking you this? Because there are other publications out there that, well, for once, they don't compensate their writers. There are publications out there that say, well, we're a community service, and so we open the community to write. And whoever writes may or may not be doing so well, may not be a good writer, may not be reporting responsibly, may not be doing research, etc., etc. So the question is, how important is it that here at Coffee and Headlines, well, actually, it's not even about Coffee and Headlines, but how important is it to you to have access to unbiased quality reporting, unbiased quality information? And I'm sorry, Matthew says, reporting should always be objective, just the facts, ma'am. Every now and then I get very unobjective, I must confess, because I'm biased. But no, seriously, when we do what we do try to just be as comprehensive as possible. Survey says, let's see, that 95% of you find unbiased quality reporting to important, very important. 4% of you said not very, and 1 of you said, I'm really here just to watch Luna, which is fine too. Luna, unfortunately, refuses to sit in front of her Luna cam with this weather. So there you have it. And the last question of the day, before we go into chit chat, also has to do with our core values. And I've never fully explained this one, and I'm going to do that today. And the question is very simple. Should we be more resourceful to tourists? Yes or no? For those of you that wonder where that comes from the beginning of Coffee and Headlines, it was really important to yours truly to create an environment where it was not about tourists. It's about locals, those of us that live here, and who have different needs other than those of people that have never been here before. I'll be honest with you. When I was working at Vallarta Lifestyles, it was interesting that you get tired of writing about the same things. How many times can you describe the Malecon sculptures? How many times can you answer the same questions? So I figured, well, we have different needs here because we live here. We're not here temporarily. We're here for the haul. or we've been here so many times that we consider ourselves part of the local scene. We don't need to know about the touristy stuff anymore. In fact, we're ready, itching, and able, and wanting to discover what it's really like to live in Puerto Vallarta as a community of locals. So, but of course, we get the occasional tourist that shows up and is just like, how far is Cinepolis from the beach? Or think questions like that. Yours truly doesn't want to answer questions like that. So we are getting to the close of the last survey, and 210. Should we be more resourceful to tourists here? 24% of you say yes, 76% of you say no, which means to me that what is really important to you is that we preserve this environment as a place for locals. And that, my friends, is the end of today's survey. Says I am now itching to get back to your comments, and I'm going to go from the very beginning and see what's going on. There's a bunch of hellos. There's a bunch of you watching live. That's wonderful. I hope the silent majority is participating as well. Good morning, Raymond. I hope you're doing okay. Let's see what else we have. Karen is getting excited about her second Moderna. Good for you. I am. I'm itching. I'm itching to get my second vaccine, but you already know that. So far, cellular so good. It might cost a fortune. Time to buy Paco a coffee. Well, hold your horses. I think I have enough bandwidth to do this. But we will definitely. Actually, what I hope is that Telmex will come and repair my service. It was really fun because I was able to log online onto the Telmex website and report the problem, and they diagnosed it and automatically gave me a service number. So whether that means they'll come and repair the line today or in 2 weeks, then we'll have to wait and see what's going on. No need to be a wreck. Well, Karen, I get anxious because I want to make sure that you guys have a wonderful experience. And so far, so good. This is really good. Let's see what else we have. Joey comments, one of our avocado trees fell yesterday. Hopefully you can perk it up again. And if it's lost, that would be really horrible. The winds were really frightening, actually. Let's see what else. That's why Dave Schwartz said guacamole. Now I understand. The recommended wait time for second AstraZeneca is 12 weeks and no less than 8. Thank you very much for that, Heather. I didn't know that, so I'm going to continue to wait patiently for my turn. Thank you again for the explanations of occupation and occupancy. It's just one of those facts that refuses to stick. So that'll be that in my epitaph. Never mind. I will never be able to tell that one. Let's see. Thank you for the good wishes, Diane. I'm glad that staying in touch helps you go to your happy place. Let's see what else. Went to Irma's restaurant and bar yesterday in Paso Ancho for prime rib and French dip. I don't know Irma's restaurant. Oh, I want to, because I know Paso Ancho, but I've never been to Irma's. I'm going to look that up on Facebook. Hopefully they have a Facebook page. Thank you very much for that, Suzanne. Yet another restaurant to appreciate. Suzanne also says they should, about the restaurant that was closed, they should have been open or put a sign on the door for explanation. Chris says, I agree, very unprofessional, and I would not be impressed. That's kind of the way I felt. Here's where you started ruffling my feathers. Mexican time. Okay, guys. Think about this for a second. In this day and age of politically correctness, do you really think it is polite to talk about Mexican time? It's kind of like saying, oh, he smells like a French person, or he tips like a Canadian. Mexican time is, ugh, I just have problems with. I have problems with that expression. I simply do. That's not something that I react to well, and I don't see why anybody should. Um, I'm right with you. You're not an asshole. Well, sometimes I can be an asshole, Mary, and especially when I talk about restaurants. I mean, sometimes you guys get really feisty about your restaurant, so I want to be very, very careful here. Um, Glee Audrey says disappointed would give them a one more chance. Of course, I will give them one more chance, but I don't think it's right for a restaurant to do that. Now, some of you might argue, well, why didn't you call or why don't you let them know? And why are you choosing to use a public forum instead? Well, because this is the way we do things. And bottom line is, if you want to go to La Fiamma, you may want to call ahead. And that's just the way it is. Scott says, shit happens. Second chances are always allowed. Absolutely. Did you have an actual reservation? I didn't think I needed to have one. Um, and Lynn says, yeah, I'm sure there's a good reason, and whatever good reason it is, hopefully they will let us know what it is. Uh, we live on Mexico time for see again, Mexico time. How do you feel? How do you feel as foreigners talking about Mexico time? And do you feel, or do you, it's like me, well, I don't know, it just grates at me, and that's just me. Or maybe it is time to really reevaluate whether this time that we're living is a time where it's politically correct to say, oh, they're running on Mexican time. um, Sherry says, I'd like to give businesses the benefit of the doubt and don't get upset if a business is closed. I'm not upset. I simply brought it up because you may want to keep this in mind should you wish to go to the restaurant. In fact, I'm quite relieved because we ended up going to an air conditioned place where we did not get rained on. Let's see what else we have. Da da dee da da. Lynn will be here permanently in 45 days. Mazel tov. Um, See, John, you ask, have you forgotten what country you are in? And I ask you, have you thought about the fact that your comment might actually be insulting to some Mexicans? And I'm not saying that you're intending to insult, but again, this whole notion of Mexicans being late, Mexicans, and we mentioned this the other day, most of you eat your salads north of the border because you have Mexican workers working your fields and they show up on time. Um, let's see what else we have. Congratulations on your 52nd anniversary, Bev Cabrera. Mazel tov. I hope you have many more anniversaries. Let's see. Let's see what else we have. It really depends on what types of ads and how they are placed. Well, the reason I was asking about these things is because, I mean, an ad-free environment is always important to me. And some very freaky incident happened this weekend when somebody tried to hijack my broadcasts and put them on their website, and I felt very upset, and I let that person know that that was not cool. That other website isn't one of the local websites that provided information in English, and I don't like the quality of their reporting, and I don't like the way they advertise advertisers, and I simply do not wish to be associated with them. So thank you very much for the clarity. Matthew says, if advertising benefits Paco economically, I'd go for it. Well, yes, we have thought about doing sponsors at some point, but thank God, thanks to your contributions, we don't need to do that right now. I like that you mentioned some cluster businesses. I feel the responsibility of helping promote some of you guys. And every time you guys have something important to share, it is really important for me to know about it. Cindy says, I like the show just the way you do it. Oh, good. I was thinking of taking my shirt off, and I'm glad that I don't have to. Just kidding. Um, let's see. Lisa, that's very kind of you. I think that if Paco needs the revenue, I'm all for advertising. We do great with your membership. Your being a contributing member makes a whole world of difference. And it is you who make this happen. And Luna and I cannot be more grateful. My sister's traveling. She's visiting my brother Gabriel in Dallas. That's wonderful. Enjoy the family. Let's see what else. Let's see what else. Stick to your core values regarding advertising. We will, Kelly. No worries. Um, let's see. I don't mind you giving a shout out to places here and also help support the listeners who have businesses. Glad there are no paid advertising. We will always give a shout out to new businesses. And it was precisely in that spirit that I wanted to go visit this Fiamma restaurant because it's fairly new and I wanted to see what it was about. That's what we do. Um, let's see, let's see, let's see, let's see. No, tourists have many resources already. My thoughts exactly. So, if you happen to be a tourist and you come into Coffee and Headlines and you find whatever information we share useful, that'll be great. But we're not a tourist primary place. We're always going to welcome tourists, but we're not going to spend a lot of time asking or responding to questions that tourists can find answers for elsewhere. Um, James says, I am picky about my sources of information. I don't trust Facebook and limit myself to NPR for real verified news reporting. Well, James, I totally agree with you. I'm sure you already know this, but we choose our sources very carefully, and even the most trusted sources are bound to make a mistake every now and then. That's just the nature of the beast. But again, when somebody comes forth here in the comments and says things like, well, I heard it through someone or somebody told me or this, that, and the other, we're going to continue not taking much for granted, not paying much attention to those kinds of reports. Um, you already create a huge resource for tourists. Taco Tuesday alone could keep them busy with their entire trip. Attaboy. And tomorrow is Taco Tuesday. I still don't know where I'm going to go, but I have a couple of good ideas. I am going to continue reading more and more comments about tourists. Many of you say there are other resources for tourists. I'm so glad that we are. Thank you, Heather. Please, God, not for the tourist, Paco. This is the only medium for locals. Coming from Heather, I will take that as a huge compliment. Thank you very much, Heather. We very much try to make sure that it continues to be about us. And when other websites come to me and say, well, you can associate with us and we will give you a lot of hits and we'll give you a lot of views and stuff like that. Here at Coffee and Headlines, we've never been concerned about huge numbers. We are very, very happy to be a small what do they call them, community, a small community, a niche community. Yes, Luna is a diva cat, absolutely, and that's why we love her. um, um, well, again, Clive, we'll go back and we'll let them know, and we'll let them know in a good way. It's like, for me, it's the kind of thing in which if I go, I'm going to say to them, well, maybe this flew okay in San Miguel de Allende, but here, you can't do that. Doug says, I'm cutting in and out. I hope that was just temporary. Let's see what else we have. It is next to El Rio Barbecue. Thank you very much, Joey. I'll be happy to check it out one of these days. Let's see. Interesting. Now we get to the comments about the Mexican time. Kelly agrees with the Mexican time thing. Thank you. It's said with love, not meant to be negative from me anyway. Here's the thing, Stephanie, and I'm not entirely sure what that refers to. We can always think that we're saying things with love, but it's not about how we say it, it's about how they're received. That's the way I look at it. Suzanne says the way I look at it is that it is a laid back place and not like the US always a rush. What happens if I say, oh, he's lazy like an African American? I hate myself for having said that. And I would never say that. Even if I said it, oh, I'm saying it with love. You know, just food for thought. You know, you can agree or disagree with me on this one, but there's certain expressions that have to do with ethnicity, and I've gotten myself in serious problems about this. I just don't think they're correct, and that's just me. Um, Catherine feels Mexico time is insulting. Thank you very much. My sister, Mexico time, and she puts a barf icon. Thank you very much, hermanita. Um, Angelica says, I think when you express Mexican time, it's a bit of an insult. It's a bit insulting. I'm so glad to hear that you guys are sensitive to this. Um, Plays into the stereotype. Well, again, we don't want to play into the stereotype. Any stereotype here. We really don't. In fact, we find that supporting stereotypes is probably part of the problem with them. Um, let's see. Let's see. The idea of Mexico time is similar to Hawaiian time, not really meant as a dig, but rather the most relaxed atmosphere of the warmer climate. I still, I still don't. No, no. I still personally choose not to use it, and that's just me. Paco, we are a community of American and Canadians here. We run businesses on a much tighter clock, unlike here. You must understand it's from our viewpoint. Um, I do, Mark, but I choose not to attach an ethnic statement to it. And that's just my choice. So I respect the way you describe time, and if that's the way you describe time, so be it. Um, and quite honestly, if you are running your business here with American or Canadian expectations, I just wonder how successful you're going to be. I mean, different country, different customs, different habits. I, as a Mexican, hate that stereotype. I try my best to always be on time or even early. But yes, I am late. Thank you very much for that, Joey. Uh, in the States, among African Americans, CPT is used. Oh, colored people time. Oh, ooh, I never heard of that before, and that just hurts in my stomach. It really does. Um, Paco, Mexican time is not a negative thing. Mexico time is an actual thing. When we go to Mexico, we experience that life moves at a slower pace. La vida es menos estresante porque no andamos a las carreras. That is your opinion, Jorge. I think I stand by mine, and I'm just interesting to see that we have diverse opinions here. Um, da da dee da da. Yes, it's really dismissive and insulting when I hear expats make comments that denigrate Mexican culture. Thank you very much for that. Absolutely. Different cultures view time differently, whether it's polite or arrive. Um, Racism is insidious, different levels of magnitude. Um, no, 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 Paco, the foreigners are not the only ones who say that. The nationals say it all the time. Well, but again, Dwayne, here's the thing, black people call themselves the N word amongst them. We gay men, we call each other faggots, and sissies. It's, and do I expect a Mexican to give me shit for being late? Yeah, that would not offend me. What offends me is when people from another country do that. I would never go to France and say, oh, ooh, you really don't bathe here, do you? Because there's that stereotype that French don't take showers. Or, it really depends on who it's coming from in my book. If a Mexican guy or if a Mexican person gives me shit about timeliness or lack of thereof, it doesn't offend me. but it really does rub me the wrong way when it comes from a foreigner. And I hear it coming from a foreigner, from foreigners enough that it, might, it's just not for me. And I'm repeating myself, and I don't mean to. Um, so I have seen. Uh, as someone who runs a high-end boutique B&B with certain level of expectations, this whole idea of Mexican time, I can only just imagine how well that would fly over if my guests requested breakfast at 8 a.m. and my staff and I rolled in around 9:30 saying, "Hola, we're just running on Mexican time." Well, precisely my point. Um, okay, I can see that I've unleashed a lot of comment on this, and I'm very happy that this is happening because this means that it gets us thinking about things, and it gets us thinking about our habits, and some of these habits can be really, really be ingrained in our mindset. Uh, so again, I'm not looking for everybody to agree with me, and I'm not looking for all of us to think about the things in the same way, but I am just very happy to see you all thinking about these things. Um, oh, my sister's in Dallas time and she's starving. Well, that's a different kind of thing. Make sure that our brother Gabriel gives you proper nourishment, my dear. Anyhow, there is many more comments here, many more comments, and I think this is a good place to leave. I am so very happy that we survived this connection, despite the fact that we have connected through the internet provided by my cell phone and not Telmex. And I thank you, as always, for joining me. I thank you so very much for your opinions on the 4 survey questions, because you confirm that we are on the right track, and this is exactly uh, uh, where we want to be. So today is Monday, tomorrow's Taco Tuesday, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you'll stay kind, connected, and I hope you will show up at whatever time you want to show up. And I hope that whatever time you show up, you don't call it a Mexican time, and that's just me. Where is my outro button? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm ready to go. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good one.